Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Mansi and today I will give you some insights regarding the basis of functioning of electronic apex locator in determining the working length of a tooth. Now, as we all know that the apex locator helps us to determine the length of a root canal system and the position of the canal terminus. But how does this apex locator determines it and what is the actual functioning going on inside this electronic device? So for this, I would like to take you back to your physics classes during your school days where you learnt about the electricity. So you may recall some terms like voltage, current, resistance and impedance. But why are we reading this and how will they help us in doing a root canal? So let us have some basis of it. So, voltage is also known as potential difference and basically is the driving force for the electrons to move inside a circuit. So, this potential difference will only allow our electrons to move in an electronic device that is apex locator. But this movement of our particles is known as current, and if it is a fixed amount, it is known as a direct current, and when it alternates over time, it is known as an alternating current. But all these electrons feel some resistance and are resistant actually by a tooth. And this is measured in ohms. So you might have studied in your classes that we have a 6.5 ohms resistance inside our oral mucosa. And this resistance is actually expressed in a relationship as resistivity and length and area. Now, this resistivity is basically a constant value, whereas this resistance is directly proportional to the length and inversely proportional to the area. Now, let us hammer your brain and just imagine, can the length of a tooth, shorter or longer, influence this resistance? Or the area of this apical terminus can influence it? Can influence it? So, this may be an inquisitive question to you. Let us see how it can influence. Now, if we talk about an insulator is basically any material that has high resistivity and thus it offers high resistance to the movement of these electrons. So, please remember that whenever we will talk about resistance, we will say that it's related to direct current, and whenever we will talk about impedance, we will say that it is related to alternating current. And impedance is nothing but a combination of resistance and capacitance. Now, this will only form the basis of the different generations of electronic apex locators that we read further. Now, all these current and resistance are actually related in the form of a mathematical relationship, which is called as an Ohm's law. So you might have read it that V is equal to I into R, the most famous equation we read during our school days. So there's one more term that is known as capacitance, and tooth also acts as a capacitor. Yes, you may be surprised to know that, but tooth also acts as a capacitor, and this is the phenomenon that is actually exploited by our modern electronic apex locators. So let us see how. But first, capacitor is any structure that is consisting of an insulator that is actually sandwiched between two conducive material. So this is an insulator which is sandwiched between two conducive material, and this capacitor has an ability to store the charge. Now, the amount of charge it will store is called as capacitance, and it depends upon three factors. The first is the nature of this insulating material, and which is known as dielectric constant, the distance between these two conducive materials and their surface area. So this distance is the most important point that you have to remember. Why? Let us know further. Now, these features can be compared to an endodontic instrument in a root canal of a tooth surrounded by the periodontium. That is the reason we are reading it, man. So, the relationship between this capacitance and its variable is actually shown by the equation as capacitance is equal to its dielectric constant into area upon the distance. So, can I say that there exists a relationship between the capacitance and the area of the conducive material and the distance between them? Let us see how. Now, our tooth acts as a capacitor. But how, man? How can it act as a capacitor? So, as I said, that capacitor is any material that is in insulator is sandwiched between two conducive material. Now, here the insulator is basically our dentin and the cementum, and the conducive materials through which the electrons or the current will pass are actually the file and the periodontal membrane. Now, the file and the PDL actually act as the conductors of capacitor. So, as I told you, that please remember this as an important point, distance between the conductors. Now, just imagine whenever this distance will reach to zero, the distance between the file and the PDL, what will happen? If the distance is 0, then according to equation, it will give a value of 0. So yes, you are right. Our apex locator will show a 0 value whenever the distance between this file and the PDL will reach to 0. And that's how an apex locator shows 0 value whenever you reached a working length. Now, another important point is that the dentin cementum and any material that is present inside the canal will act as an insulator, and this system will act as will have its own dielectric constant. So let us think that what if there are different kind of irrigants in the canal? Will it influence the apex locator, or will it have a different dielectric constant? Just think about it. So, how this apex locator actually determines the working length is by it it extrapolate the position of this file, as we discussed just now, that this position will determine the distance between the two conducive material. Now, what actually happens is electrons flow through this apex locator. They reach to the file clip, and through this file clip they reach the file, and then through the periodontal ligament they exit the system and reach the oral mucosa via the lip hook, and then again go back to the electronic apex locator. Now this EAL actually measures the resistance, impedance and capacitance, or the combination of this in this whole electric circuit form, and that's how it actually determines the working length. So these principles will actually be developed in the next presentation, where we will introduce you how the relative accuracies can influence these apex locators and how we can optimize their success in our clinical practice. But I will leave you with one inquisitive question. You can tell us in our comment box that what is the resistivity of dentin and cementum. Let us know if you can give us some insights about this. So thank you. If you like my video, do like, share, comment and subscribe. Thank you.